Hello, everybody. Are y'all alive out there? I know it's late. I know it's late. But we appreciate you all coming here into the community of Freedmanstown. My name is Sharon Fletcher. I am the executive director for the Houston Freedmanstown Conservancy. And we are in the community of Freedmanstown, which is approximately 160 years old, y'all. This is our community here in Freedmanstown, in Houston. There's so many people who don't know about this place, that don't know about this jewel here. But many folks have heard about Jack Yates. Jack Yates is actually a founding father of this community, along with a few others that I know you guys will, after this conversation, may take some deeper dives to learn and understand a little bit more about Freedmanstown. So, Freedmanstown being the oldest black settlement post Civil War is a community that was built by those who migrated from the Galveston, Matagorda County, Brazoria County, and even Louisiana, and came here to Houston to settle on the south banks of Buffalo Bayou. It began as a tent community, y'all, a swampland, an inhabited a place, uninhabitable place, you all. But y'all know how we do as black folks. We can make a way out of no way. We will make something out of anything. And so the community that you're sitting in right now is what we're enjoying. It's the labor of their work, of community, of schools, homes, churches, businesses, banks, all the things actually existed here in this community. So we thought it would be great to bring you all into this community and to understand its place not only in the city, not only in black history, but in the city's history and American history. So thank you all for being here today. Clap it up for yourselves. I think that's important. So, what we've done as an organization, our organization is about 7 years old, right? 2018. Yeah, 7 years old. And within the 7 years, our work as an organization has been able to leverage $10+ million into this community. $10+ million. It has not been an easy thing to do. The place that you're sitting in right now is owned by the Houston Public Library in the city of Houston, but it is because of the public-private partnerships between a nonprofit organization and the city of Houston, that work that has led to this investment here in this community. And there are other things that will come to fruition over the next 2 years. Well, you will see that $10 million plus investment that has taken place as part of this work. There are also UNESCO sites that are within this community as well, which is a pretty big deal. People may not necessarily know that, especially folks who are locally here in Houston, but the people who understand history, they come here looking for those things in this community. So we've been able to make some great strides as an organization, holding place for this community. I'm actually excited to be able to do this work. I feel honored and humbled at the same time to be able to do it. It's not just about me. It's not ever about me. I don't ever want me to be the center of anything, but about legacy, about our ancestors and all the things that they've been able to do. So, with that being said, all of those things, I reached out to Black at Microsoft. Where's Charles? Hey, I didn't bugged him so. Then Andrea, and I bugged her so. And so we thought it would be great to have this conversation about how folks, black folks who are in tech, can actually invest in preservation and historical efforts. We don't ever want folks who are making progress or who are innovative to feel like they're excluded from history and preservation. So I am excited to have Andrea Streeter from Black at a part of the ERG group, right, to be able to present this panel tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. I am Andrea Streeter. One thing Sharon did not mention is that this event is in partnership with AfroTech. She had the vision to reach out to AfroTech. AfroTech is one of the largest black professional technology conferences. It is here this week in Houston, Texas, and Sharon reached out to get official, clearance to be able to put on this event here to not only showcase technology amongst Black Americans, but also to showcase how technology can be persevered or leveraged here locally. So we are really excited to have you all present with us. So a little bit about myself and the why, if you will. So I am the president of our Black and Microsoft Employee Resource Group. So typically, yes, employee resource groups are intended to be community for the people, for our employees. We do a lot of that, community building, professional development, et cetera. However, one key contributor to our pillar is also community give back, philanthropic energy, and just really not only exposing our employees to nonprofits, but also leveraging those partnerships to how nonprofits can benefit from the advancement and access that we in technology, we in industry can offer and afford. So it's a two-way street. It's very transactional if you make it to be that way, right? And so when Sharon came and said, hey, I want to do something with Microsoft during AfroTech, what you got? And I'm like, oh, Lord, I don't know, but we will come up with something. While we were thinking through it, I work in Azure, one of our Microsoft product lines, and I recalled that about 2 years ago, there was a effort that Microsoft funded using our cloud storage capabilities and AI technologies to assist a museum in Memphis called the Withers Museum, African American Museum. And through that partnership, some phenomenal things happened. And so I was like, that's it, Sharon. Not only will we inspire and talk through the conceptual concepts of what the nonprofits or the community can leverage or benefit from, we'll bring you a real life case story. I didn't know how I would do that. We began reaching out, thinking through who we could talk to, and happened to remember that Darrell Booker, who you guys will hear from later, was really instrumental in that. And from there, it just kind of grew and built. And so I will transition to Darrell and LaRon Walker for showcasing the partnership with Microsoft with the Withers Museum, which is again in Memphis, but also then we will continue on with the panel discussion and offer you guys engagement and questions, but really just what can we do? What can we learn? How can this be enhanced? How can we go beyond this moment in time and have it be something that's not only continual and residual, but something that continues to be impactful from a legacy standpoint for us all. Lastly, we will also introduce Miguel Caesar. He's local part of the Houston library system as well. So we have some experts and SME subject matter experts on the technology front. And then we have Miguel, homegrown, our historian locally to kind of tie it all together from a tangible and tactical. We did our thing on this panel, y'all. We did. It came together. So without further ado, Darrell, would you come on and bring your crew for your contribution?
Hello. Good evening, everyone. How you doing? As she mentioned, my name is Darrell Booker. I'm a technologist and a social impact strategist. And first of all, I want to thank Sharon once again for having us and the work of the Conservancy. It's so important. And I also want to give Andrea a shout out. You all really don't understand that the work that she and the others are doing as part of Blacks at Microsoft is completely outside of the scope of their job. They understand the disparities that exist, especially within our field, and what it takes to be able to change that. And I worked with a lot of the ERGs all over the country, from big cities, New York, Atlanta, Seattle, and hands down, the Houston ERG was the most involved in their community. So I really just want y'all to know that, take advantage of that, build the relationships with her and the others that are here, because they're the ones that's going back in the halls of Microsoft and these companies and fighting for you all. So, yes, I'm Darrell Booker. Oh, so even though we're both technologists, I promise this won't be like geeky and boring. We'll make sure that we keep it entertained. But Andrea briefly introduced my friend here, but it's only right if he can introduce himself, because he has a lengthy resume himself.
How's everybody doing this evening? Well, pleasure to meet you all. So I'll pronounce my name one time because nobody gets it right. So my name is pronounced Layron, but I don't care what you call me, as long as you spell the check right, I'm good. But I'm Layron Walker. I'm out of Atlanta, so I'm fluent today. Thank you guys for having me and having good weather today. I guess I describe myself as being a philanthropic capitalist. My story is that I'm a kid that grew up poor but smart, and I was in my high school, an engineering magnet school, and literally wasn't going to go to college until somebody from Tennessee State came in and said, if you have 1,000 plus an SAT and a 3.0, you can go to school for free. And that's how I got to TSU, right? TSU, right? Right? So I'm at TSU though, and this is what happens. This is 96 or so, and this is when the internet is starting to kind of really become a thing. And I got paid money to learn HTML, right? And because of that, a few of my friends and I, we actually built the first website for our engineering department. And because of that, we started a company called Tiger Paw Media to make websites. And we didn't make any money, but we did real good business plans. Then I was told later that when you left undergrad to apply to so many schools you can get into, so not knowing any better, first generation person, I applied to the direct PhD program at Purdue. And so I spent about 4 or 5 years there, but 3 years in, I found this business plan to start making websites, right? Started out making sites with fraternities, sororities, little small $300-400 websites, not much at all. But then one day I ran into a guy in Indianapolis named Mr. Mays, he ran the chemical company. He actually, and this guy gave me a project. Matter of fact, I ran into Mr. Mays at Purdue at an entrepreneurship summit, something like this. I saw him again at a conference at NSBE. And Mr. Mays, I ran into him and said, hey, it was great seeing you back in Indiana. I saw your site. He said, what do you think about it? Send me some notes. Long story short, I sent this man some notes, got a meeting in his office, and it led to me to actually doing his site for his company in 3 countries. It ended up being like a $40,000 project. And that literally changed my perspective on technology. Fast forward 5 years into grad school, realized that tech wasn't, I didn't need a PhD. I could have finished, I'm ABD by degree. I started building technology companies. So for the past 25 plus years, I've been building tech businesses. So I build education businesses, I've sold businesses, and it's my thing, right? As a part of doing that, much like Microsoft has their ERGs, my ERG is called Time to Give. It's my nonprofit, right? I run nonprofit, I run programs. My thing is finding ways to use tech to transform communities and trying to find ways to build generational wealth so I can kind of make things happen that I care about. So long story short, technologist, I'm deep in tech. And I try to use my gifts and skills to make sure communities can thrive, and then exposing younger generations to tech to kind of change their lives as well.
But before we get to some of the stuff that you brought in and get to the kind of preservation conversation, amazing story. And I think what we really should take out of that is just the importance of, technology for our youth to be skilled in it. Because it can take them in so many ways. I say technology powers everything. Just what are your thoughts on how we really should be embracing and pushing for as much STEM education with our youth, especially in this age of AI?
That's the thing, though. I think it makes a big deal. I'll give you an example. When I was at TSU, I got my first internship, and I was at AT&T Labs when the labs were popping. And I remember sitting on the beach in New Jersey. And you take it for granted now, but I have the piece of paper today where I sketched out a flow chart for a website to order pizza online, right? And you had to go and get your pizza, you would get faxed, and it worked. But back then, I had the ideas and the exposure, but I didn't have a network. Because I wasn't in rooms like this, that idea never went anywhere. And you realize that these kids have ideas, they have skill sets, they know how to leverage, they know how to use it, but we haven't built these ecosystems to show them that it's possible to kind of push those streams forward. So I think that early exposure is important. So one, they can know it is possible, they can see examples, but then even today, my dream is to green light and fast forward that. So even today, I invest in companies, I mentor people, and I'm trying to find a way to make sure things that took me 25 years to do, that I can do for them in 10 years or 5 years.
You hit on that last point. It's really up to us. I say if you're over 30 years old, it's not about you anymore. It's about, giving back. And the more that we can bring that awareness and pour into them, they won't have to wait as long to realize or get to where we were. And I mean, even to the point as we just talk about technology, college is absolutely too late. High school is too late. It needs to be middle school. And for real, give me the really smart elementary school kids. There we go. Yeah. They need to be embracing it now, understanding it. It's not going away. There's a lot of headlines around, just unfortunate layoffs because of the advancement of technology. So it's really important that we are not having our kids still follow, the plans from, our parents and our grandparents. Things are evolving. So you brought some beautiful stuff here. Sure. The legacy line. Tell us what the legacy line is exactly.
Well, if somebody could help me as well, maybe pass some of the pamphlets out around so people can see it. But that's an example. So if you look at all the businesses that I'm attached to and work with now, and actually the booklets themselves.
The pamphlets. Yeah.
Every business that I'm attached to today is trying to find a way to make sure that you could find ways to generate, sustainable businesses that also then allow for you to do things that anchor in community. So the legacy line is a business that essentially, talk about the audience that's here. As I understand it, in the audience, there are a lot of people who work around, people who support organizations that have artifacts. They have history and heritage. And in most cases, we haven't found ways to take those things and monetize, to use those for things we care about. Most organizations are focused on grant funding, which right now is something that is up in the air. So the legacy line is a business that uses technology and ecosystems to allow for you to essentially take assets that have immense value and essentially put them out in products that make sense. So this is a home decor business that you can see that exists, that has premium products that are anchored in initially the first partner was the Withers collection. So to that, she mentioned the Withers collection. If you guys don't know the history, so Ernest Withers is a photographer who, it seems that he amassed one of the largest collections of imagery that covered African-American history, civil rights, music, and culture.
Well, let me correct you. The largest by a single person.
Single person.
Doesn't matter what it is. The largest by a single person. Yeah.
That amassed. And of these images, all these images to this day, only 1% of that collection has been digitized, and it all is held, luckily, by their family, and the trust. The family still has access to those assets. But most of these assets, one, haven't been preserved and digitized because of financial concerns. And more importantly, they haven't been monetized to have that family benefit from doing that. And for those of you who may think about one of their most famous pictures, if you have seen the picture, the I'm a Man picture, where the Memphis workers standing in front of the Claiborne Temple, that's one of his most famous pictures, right? So the legacy line is me, and we'll get into the backstory, but long story short, I got connected to that family, and we have built an enterprise that helps them monetize those images through home decor products that are sold directly to consumer, that are sold in bookstores, and it helps them find ways to benefit from their father's work, but also generate resources to help them preserve, monetize, and kind of keep the legacy going.
So talk a little bit, and I'm sure I can't find her. Sharon knows this, but talk a little bit of how it's important to find those different revenue streams and monetize, especially from the standpoint of we know funding comes and goes, but when it is around and it's for the nonprofit sector, usually it's very focused on a specific demographic target use case. Lots of time youth, lots of time around education and things of that sort. So when you think of museums and historical institutions, they're not necessarily getting that same type of funding. So, talk a little bit just about how important that monetization is and how much of a difference it can make for an organization.
And to your point, a museum, a big part of the operational capital is overhead, people. Most grants don't cover CapEx. They focus on the programmatic side of it. They assume that you have the office manager, you have the program manager, you have the supplies, right? They focus on how many kids have you seen that are doing X, Y, and Z. And so oftentimes you can't even do your programming because the grants are too restrictive or they have to be cost matched. So you get $1 million grant, but you gotta have $1 million to even get the $1 million, right? And so being able to generate things that essentially generate unrestricted funds that allow for you to use them in ways that you want to move things forward is important. And I often give an example with me, even with my nonprofit. I explain that in my case, since I'm a technologist, I do things that I describe as being like bleeding edge, but still practical. But the problem with that is that most things that we're doing are maybe far out of their vision that we have that people can't see. The issue is that, though, I have to convince somebody that can't see my vision to approve my project. And in most cases, people don't approve and want to get behind it until they can see it.
Right.
So if I were to come into this room a year ago and even give you guys this flyer with these pictures on it, most people couldn't even imagine these products in front of me. I walk in here now and show you this marble coaster and show it can be printed in wood. You're like, that's an amazing product. How could I buy that? But I couldn't convince you a year ago to help me go and make that. And I think if you're doing things that are transforming communities that are different than what people know and what they can't see, you're never going to get those resources.
Right.
And so you have to find ways to get streams that let you run your play without asking somebody, because oftentimes the answer is going to be no.
And it also helps to extend the reach of said organization or museum, to be able to, for those that say can't make it here. But for someone to buy something that is representative was here, now that thing travels, they give it to someone, and now you really extend you build a community around some items and products.
So a good example. So a good example. I'm working with Withers and a few other museums like that. Most times, if you take like we were just here a second ago, and I don't know what was happening, but I saw a group of 20 people who were standing out front, giving a tour, and they were walking around this neighborhood. And let's think about how that typically happens. They came as a group more than likely. They probably got registered by one person. So when they left this tour, you just had 20 people that were very engaged that came here and were connected with this organization. But I guarantee you, if you have any information, it's for only one person. So the organization, you lost 19 leads, 19 people that you could have connected with. Now, if that person came here and they stood in front of this building for 4 or 5 hours and looked at this construction project, what if there was something that was monetizable that attached to that thing they cared about? So how do you track that they were here, what they cared about, what their interests were, and then find ways to reach them just in time with stuff that helps them kind of continue that experience to compel them to kind of see your vision and support it. And so the technology piece, in this space, the product piece matters, but you're anchoring now all these other value-added things, leveraging tech to kind of connect in an authentic way to kind of grow that ecosystem. And I think that oftentimes big companies are doing that. We know about CRMs and tools and things like that, but our organizations aren't doing those things. And frankly, in most cases, our people that come and see us want to support us, but we haven't asked them because they don't know how, and it's too complicated.
And what's the vision for Legacy Line? Is this something to where someone may be sitting here and they may be part of an organization that has artifacts and things? Is it a situation so they can get their items through Legacy Line?
That's the point. So the big idea is that how do you, again, leverage the skill that I would have to take organizations that typically wouldn't be in these conversations, right? Help them build out infrastructure to be able to build things like this that preserves their legacy. So it could start from how do you digitize, how do you preserve, how do you build a supply chain that can survive these kind of current crises that we have to make and manufacture product? How do you then, in this case, my team, I built a team of about 15 people that are talking right now to about 200 different legacy type organizations. The idea being that one, if you're an African American museum and don't have assets, then you can leverage this collection because it has value, right? But if not, if you have your own collection, we can help you build these products in your bookstore. We can help build your D2C online shopping system for you. We can put together a digital marketing team to go out here and find people for you and help build your social ad campaigns around it to kind of drive traction and connection. And then once they make it to your place of business, we can help you build these digital experiences to kind of guide, connect, and get analytics for you to make you kind of become full service. And all this is being done in a way to where, again, we're having community in mind. It's not me coming in saying, you have to have this huge CapEx to come buy this stuff. We're positioned from the vantage point of, hey, you want this D2C store? This is the profit margin that you get, right? So you can think about it. Or in my case, in some cases, my team is funding the product because we want this community to be helpful. So if you have a customer and you got X number of people, we can now, through modeling, know that it represents so much revenue. And I'll go find strategic funding sources to get your product in your store to make you sustainable. So it's kind of this kind of philanthropic community model where you're winning. But more importantly, you think about it as an asset class, like, first of all, if you guys are seeing some of these products, you haven't seen these products anywhere. So they're best in breed product, but more importantly, they have imagery and content that we care about in forms you haven't seen. And that combination, if done right, is a tremendous asset class.
Yeah. I want to get to the Withers really bad, but before that, you mentioned something about even helping them with the digital experiences. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I was chatting earlier with someone around just how important that is to engage people who are coming into your centers, your museum, because that's what people expect now.
Okay. So I'll give it, unfortunately, we couldn't bring the monitor tonight, but I'll give an example. And if you guys connect with me, I'll send it to you as well online. So let's take the Withers example. We took literally a video of Mr. Withers talking and got some audio snippets. And everybody know in this day and age, like talk about AI and cloning, and that's a very, I don't want to say easy thing to do, but it's very easy. It's something that can happen easily if you know what you're doing. So we trained an AI model to speak like Mr. Withers based on his legacy speeches that he gave. And I sent that voice to his daughter, and she cried when she heard it because it literally had the drawl. It sounded just like him, right? And then from that, you can imagine going into this fine art gallery, right, that has pictures on it. We then used AI to describe what was in those pictures and had his voice speak those conversations. So now when you come into the gallery and you're looking at these pictures, Mr. Withers is telling you why he took that picture himself, right? And we're guiding you around different parts and different eras of time and tracking that you made those things happen and know you had that experience. And then beyond that, we also built like holograms of the staff that were presented in first person to tell those stories. And that's important because it sounds kind of cliche. I'm using a hologram, but what it really means is that think about the average tour that you've been on, whether it's a museum or a college. That experience is based on the mood, the knowledge, and the person that gives it to you. So what if I can get my best person to go describe what this is about, and they deliver that experience every time, on point, with no attitude, all the time?
No attitude.
Right? Think about that though. Like your best person is always here. It always works. And you know that happened, right? And every time somebody takes that tour, you got analytics behind it. You have the email address, you have their phone number. And then as a museum, you may do a pop-up and say, man, like nobody went to this side of the building today. This doesn't work. Well, let's change this around. So all of that becomes a part of that. And it helps you actually, make sure you can, one, scale with less people, but also tune and tweak and make your experience better for your customers.
You said something, so you open up a can of worms around the use of AI for the likeness of Mr. Withers, and there's a lot of debate around AI, and some of it is around using the likeness, and I think this is an unbelievably great example of proper usage of it, ethical usage of it, which, in my opinion, would love to love your thoughts is. For that very reason alone, we have to adopt AI. We cannot continue to fight it because ultimately, one, you're going to be on the wrong end of a battle because the powers that be are advancing it forward. But this is a really great example of how it can be used correctly, and it has such a positive value to it.
I think so. I think, and maybe we should kind of talk about some of the things and how Microsoft was helping with this. So let's go back a second. I'm sorry. So when we first got involved with this project, I want you guys to imagine this room. So you go into a building. Imagine a building about the square foot size of what we just came out of.
Yeah, about the size of that. Yeah.
And in that building, I just want you to imagine file cabinets, boxes, and just random artifacts full of 35 millimeter negatives. And that's what's in that room. And that room, and that represents literally like the life's work of this person that's sitting there.
1.8 million individual pieces.
Right. And what happened was that doing some previous efforts, some grants, somebody came in and they got a legacy, what I guess you would call it a curator, and they built their own Dewey Decimal System type thing. And they went through and made like a little Excel file of what's in this envelope and what the notes were. And that's the state of this organization. And they get a small grant, maybe $50,000, $60,000, and they take that and they go digitize 1% of this collection. And that's the state of what's happening. And then you're like, what happens here, right? So the conversation first, and I believe the way it happened with Microsoft was like, hey man, this is a good community project. How do we help them figure this stuff out?
Absolutely. So I happened to meet Mr. Withers' daughter, Rosalind Withers. She is essentially, I guess, executive of the state. She runs the museum. It's right on Beale Street, famous Beale Street in Memphis. So please go and check out the museum. I believe I first met her on a trip, I think it was in Jackson, Mississippi, with the family of Emmett Till, as well as the family of Edgar Mevers. And they have been banding together for quite some time. And trying to bring as much attention to the causes of each one of their individual organizations. And as soon as I met Roz is one of those people. If she walked in here right now, you'd be like, "That's Roz, y'all." You would know it. And we got to talking, and the program I was leading at the time was called the Nonprofit Tech Acceleration for Black and African American Communities. Exactly what the title says. It was Microsoft's Racial Equity Initiative that was founded in 2020, just days after George Floyd was killed. And it was focused on how can we help the Black community in a long-term and sustainable way. And that was through empowering the organizations that's on the ground doing the work, the Freedmens, the ones that are actually in the community. And it was basically built upon really one simple thing, that if we can at least level their playing field somewhat in how they use technology. How can you have a Sharon work as a team of 20? How can they be more efficient? How can they collect data better? How can they write the grant reports better? How can they even apply for the grants better? Just doing any number of those things, we knew it would have somewhat of a higher impact on their mission. Absolutely, no matter what it was. So in meeting her, and, you know, me asking my probing questions, I realized, okay, there was zero technology into what they was doing. And he's exactly right. There were file cabinets with little labels and stuff. And he's not talking about 10, 15 years ago. He's talking about like right now. Like that is still the state. Yeah, that is the state of it right now. And once, you know, I knew the facts of largest collection by a single person, period, 1.8 million images, and only 2% have been digitized. Two things immediately came to my mind was, oh my God, you're sitting on a gold mine. A gold mine from the standpoint of a couple of things. One is, especially when we think about technology and how AI is being used to generate and create images, and people talk about the biases of it. Why is the biases of it? Because of the images it was trained on, and the people that's doing it. So when you don't have, you know, a huge catalog of imagery of Black America in the 60s, and he was primarily 60s, 50s, civil rights era. It was, 50s to yeah. So if you don't have that much of that, how can you, you know, really use the power of technology? They're trying to remove stuff from the history books. So for me, I was like, oh my God, this is a huge opportunity for them if they can just leverage some form of technology. And, you know, at that time, you know, like most organizations, she is desperately trying to raise just more money to digitize it all. Like that was, you know, top of mind for her. Got to get it all digitized. Very big ask. A huge ask. The
Even today is very insurmountable.
Very unattainable. So the thought process pivoted and said, okay, Roz, let's think about this and let's see what your opportunity is. And what immediately came to my mind was a project that Microsoft had did maybe about 5 or 6 years prior to that, called the JFK files. And you can search for it online. It's probably still available. And this was the first time Microsoft had used something called cognitive services. And they had actually took the JFK files whenever the government had released some form of it, and it included a bunch of documents and a bunch of pictures. So using these basically AI machine learning services, they was able to create a solution that ingested all of that and basically give you the ability to search not only for what you want and find it, but also help you to build a story, because it could then automatically build dependency and entity maps and understand that, you know, Lee Harvey Oswald is connected to the books depository, which was connected to this person, which was connected to this, to that, by taking all the photos, taking all the documents, and using AI machine learning to build all of that. So the idea was, this sounds like the exact same thing. How do we make this happen? So I was in a position to be able to provide some resources. This is where we all kind of came together like the Avengers here. And for whatever reason, I don't think I didn't have the cash that she needed to digitize. But the biggest thing that I had at my disposal was Azure credit. So cloud, data computing, the cloud, all of that, y'all. You can't do anything without that. And just through the size of this was like, okay, she needs quite a bit. So I said, all right, Roz, so I have $250,000 of this Azure credits. This can at least get you the space. Yeah, it's equivalent, 1-to-1. This at least can get you to where you're going. but because I was working with other nonprofits and other things, I didn't have the team to dedicate to it. So reached out to some other Microsoft people were involved, and essentially our global black belt team got involved. And this is a team, I like to describe it as probably like one of the coolest jobs. They can pick the projects they work on. I mean, just listen to the name of global black belt. So they have the freedom to work with it, and it's really smart guys at the company. And this one colleague, his name is Juan Vega. Rock star. Wish he could be here. He immediately hopped on this project and said, Darrell, whatever you need. And he assembled a team of engineers within Microsoft that essentially built this solution, leveraging the credits, and now is the infrastructure for the entire Withers collection. And can you tell them a little bit what that system does, the digitizing, the metadata, what that ultimately ended up creating for them, which is when he came into the picture and then took over?
You mentioned like the ERGs and stuff. So just think about this. Microsoft came in from a philanthropic perspective. They put together this team that this nonprofit couldn't even afford to even be in a room with. And the idea was, how do we solve this issue? So when I got involved, so Withers now, let's go from this room of having all these images that haven't been scanned yet, and then even having these other 20,000 that are already scanned. The idea was, what if you could build a platform that could take a digital image that exists, you can use AI to describe what's inside of that picture. You also then could identify faces in that picture. If that face is known, Microsoft was really big then on their famous people API, so maybe you could identify who that person was. But even if you couldn't find that and know who that person was, imagine me scanning all these pictures and you're in Memphis and your family's still here, and you see a picture of your aunt, and you go and say, give me all the pictures of her in it. And through AI now, you can go search these 1.8 million pictures, and it can give you back every picture of her in it without you having to touch that. So Microsoft built the solution that lets you, one, give a narrative of what was inside of the picture and identify faces that were there. And that's a huge, huge thing to do, powered by Azure so it could scale. I came in basically saying, this is amazing, and we got these cool credits, but like, what can we do with this, right? How do I take this cool infrastructure that exists now and go build a business model that can take that to scale so that when these credits run out or you can't find this grant, this nonprofit could still be around to scale and monetize. And so Legacy Line and all this kind of came from that. But I picked up from where their team kind of left off, helped to coordinate quarterback, and ultimately through volunteering actually for about it sounds like a perfect story now, for probably about a year and a half. I came in as like volunteer CTO. Like when I first met Roz, her, like most people, she was gonna go raise capital. She needed so much money to pay her CTO a huge dollar amount. And I was like, honestly, like if this person really believed in this, that the money wouldn't be the problem.
Right.
So I devoted time, effort. I brought in teams, spent money, traveled, and we just started working on it because again, I cared about the community side of it. On the back side of it, it's a nice opportunity, but that's kind of how that came together.
And tell me about, I don't know for you, but at least for me, another reason I was super excited is once I learned who he was. And he told you about one photo. I want to make sure I'm not up here lying or anything, but we can, if there was a certain thing, say a certain term, would you kind of say he was basically MLK's kind of like personal photography? If you saw MLK, yeah.
Like he took pictures that were he took, I believe like one of the last pictures after he got shot.
Yeah.
Like he was that guy.
That was that guy.
Like, but there are pictures in his archive of MLK that like his family hasn't seen. Like it's
That's that point. That was the point that, you know, as a black man that grew up in this country, and you know, I know a little bit about our history.
You know what I'm saying? Like
it was surreal. I
don't-
went to Memphis. I'm from Atlanta, and I was joking with somebody about Atlanta is one of those places where you take for granted because we're around. Like I've been to Andy Young's house. Like we have these conversations. Like I can have a conversation with Dr. King's daughter, right? I'm sorry. So this is an Atlanta thing, but then you go to Memphis, you're like, but he was what? Like he took that picture? Like the one picture that was only, cameras were not allowed during the Emmett Till trial. There is one picture that's out there of the trial. Mr. Withers took that picture. Now the Associated Press has access to it and gave him credit for it, but he took that picture.
Which Which for me, you know, as someone who, like, when I think of like times and movements and the civil rights, like for me, like maybe going up through school, I remember like a handful of pictures. Like, you know, you got a Rosa Parks picture, and then we got, you know, at the counter of the restaurant, and then I remember some dogs and a fire hydrant. Like, there's a few, you know, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, there's those handful of pictures that I can remember, and I said to myself, so you mean to tell me it's 1.7999999 more of those pictures that no one has
But
seen?
beyond that, though, you would think it's not just civil rights. The
Oh, yeah.
biggest collection of images they have are just like Black lifestyle photos.
Yeah.
Regular people doing regular stuff that you never thought existed. We also covers Negro League sports. So last year, Major League Baseball had an initiative where they wanted to finally start giving attribution to stats of some of the earlier players in Negro Leagues. They went to the Withers collection to find images to use in that for that picture. He also was the official photographer record for Stax Museum, Stax Music. So
Yeah.
Ike and Tina Turner, Isaac Hayes, B.B. King. Like, there's a picture here somewhere of Elvis Presley. Like, all that stuff is happening in Memphis.
Yeah.
So you get lifestyle, sports, culture, and civil rights all wrapped into one place. And then what it does is that, especially in our community, man, like, images mean things to us. So my wife is like, to be able to have her go and find that picture of that just person on Sunday dressed up, hanging out, right? That matters.
Right.
But where can you find today? Where can you find images like this that you can put in places you care about? You can't go to a store and buy these things today. And so finding ways to do that in ways that make sense, that's a tremendous opportunity. But the AI now helps you find that.
Not only the AI helps you find it, we talked about the monetizing with the physical. Now there's the monetizing of the digital.
Without question.
Because now, whether it's through the platform that she has or just being able to give, through the platform, now's the ability for people to discover these images that now, guess what? They have to license. No different than Getty Images. And you got to pay them to use the licenses.
On steroids.
This is Getty Images on steroids, and very unique, very niche. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very niche.
So
more importantly, though, you can't recreate this stuff. So you can never find a competitor to create these things. And I think that's what's unique about this conversation. If you look around this room and find these organizations, that collaborative of stuff that we're describing, these things, they're evergreen, right? And so how do we find ways to make sure this case study becomes something that happens over and over again? And then the nice thing about it is that if you take these type of scenarios, even if you keep the products the same, and I keep giving the example, you change the images out based on the organization or nonprofit, it still becomes something special because it means something to that person. And so that's how do we come together? And it's all, I keep joking and saying, you're almost building like this this digital FUBU type thing, right? But it's self-contained. It thrives in its current moment, which is kind of crazy. But this survives even outside of this moment because it's needed regardless.
Right.
No, that's amazing. I think I'd love to bring Miguel up to join us in the conversation. Because we've been talking a lot about the Withers family. We've been talking about Memphis. Y'all like, man, we in Houston. Yeah, keep on talking about Memphis.
I know,
right? Miguel Caesar, City of Houston, in charge of a lot of great things as it relates to preservation, digitization as well. Can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Miguel Caesar. I am head of Houston Research Center. So I run the African American History Research Center, which was the first elementary school for African American children after slavery in 1870. This building here was built in 1926. We'll be 100 years next year. Yeah, we'll be 100 years next year. So I run that research center, the Houston History Research Center, also a genealogy research center, and we're building Hispanic archives on the east side.
Do you sleep, sir?
Not a lot, not a lot.
And we talk about actually running those. What does that look like?
So listen to you guys talk about. All I heard was the preservation and the lack of preservation. When you say you went in, you saw all these negatives sitting there, which is usually the problem in our community. We have things, but they're not accessible. They are usually in shoe boxes or not stored in climate controlled places, not organized and all that, which is what and it's difficult because I work for the city, and I know we was talking about like how you sustain this, and the overhead was people.
Sure.
So having, like you said, we have probably $500,000 in overhead and personnel. So we have two archivists, one digital technician, um, a digital assistant, archivist three, all those to preserve Houston's African American history. So we do have a digital archive. So we do digitize. I definitely want to talk to you about how we actually monetize that in a public sector because we're not for profit.
Sure.
So, but we can generate revenue that can come back, help buy equipment and things like that. Um, so it just makes my work of thinking how do we get the African American community to take preservation um, important. And like you were doing, if you can show that, hey, you can monetize this, you can make money off your legacy, I think that might be the first step.
And that's interesting. So I'll give an example. I think sometimes we got to just be creative how we approach that problem. So that's an example. In Atlanta right now, Andre Dickens is our mayor. And to him, he says it's the year of the youth. This is his mission. And what he does is he's been making sure that kids have jobs in the summer. Because if kids have a job, they're not going to, crime goes down, right? So every year he has summer internship programs where kids get paid to work. On the flip side of the equation, I have a nonprofit that cares about community. So what I've done is, in cases like this, I get 30 kids every summer in my summer program who are getting paid to learn technology to do things like you're describing. Right?
We don't have that.
But my point though is that
Let's figure out how to set it up.
programs exist. So you have an archivist. Like when I'm doing stuff with Withers, I don't know anything about metadata standards and how things. I'm learning those type of things. So imagine me with my skill set, sitting down with your person who knows how to archive stuff, and then know how to use this AI piece. And I got a couple of kids who want to be in computer science, and then now these kids got a real experience. They're working on problems in their local community that they understand. And then what happens now is you create these products and models that get monetized that help them either pay for scholarships or derive revenue while doing X, Y, and Z. So I think it's those type of models that exist. And you have these ERGs, people around that'll support these things.
Absolutely.
If you just kind of tell them like, this is when you show up and this is how you plug in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a question. That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I think he was like, let's figure this out right now. We ain't got to wait for Monday morning.
But that's how I see it though. It's like as an entrepreneur, like you got to go solve these problems, but it's an amazing opportunity and it's right in front of us, but it's so solvable.
But Miguel was saying, making the community understand that this preservation is important. How long have you all been doing this? Is this a relatively new effort? Because walking through and seeing how far the history at least goes back within this community, how long has this effort kind of been going on?
So we've been so the Gregory School, which was, like I said, an elementary school, it was repurposed in 2009 as a research center. But before then, it was at the Houston History Research Center, which is the oldest archives, but it collected everyone's history. Right. So I started in Prairie View about 20 years ago in their archives. So Prairie View was the first HBCU college for African Americans after slavery. So if you was in Texas, that was the only school you can go to if you wanted to go to college for a minute. So with that being said, like the Chitlin circuit, when people would come and the blacks entertain, they would actually go to Prairie View. So they have this amazing archives. So that's just one part.
Right.
So we got that part. Then we have Houston's history, Fourth Ward, the story, 1865, coming here, the tents, finally become a self-thriving community. But we just never had time to document. We was in survival mode. So a lot of the history that has been collected is very, like I say, grassroots, very small, and in personal people's care. So with that being said, now we built this archives in 2009, and we're going out to talk to the same people who went through segregation.
Sure.
And we're not allowed to come into the Houston Public Libraries. And now I'm like, hey, let me get your stuff now.
Gotcha.
So now my problem and my job was to convince our community that now we do have a place. We do have a symbolic building that represented African American learning um, since we were free, and this is now where we can put our stuff. But trying to take things from our elders
Gotcha.
is, and then you got the churches.
Oh yeah, you ain't getting nothing from the church, so they not giving it up. So is that still an ongoing effort? Is that a continuous effort?
I would say over the last 15 years, we've finally made enough connection, enough goodwill, done enough. Like you said, we're going to digitize your work. You can go online now and see your photos. We started collecting obituaries. I think that, I know it sounds morbid, but
I know what I'm about to say.
That helped a lot.
That helped.
our community loves
That's black.
obituaries for some reason. So we have one of the largest online African American obituaries, which is actually great because that was the first time that we would sit down and actually create like a genealogy of our life and history. So I can find your work history, education, lineage of your kids and all that. So it's actually a very valuable piece of information for research. So it's just ongoing.
And I'm not as knowledgeable on this, but is the work that you all doing, is this typical for most cities, or is this
No.
something that's very unique or mostly unique to Houston? At least
Kinda
for the
unique,
city
yeah.
taking this.
Definitely. So, like, I think one of the other models is the Schomburg. They are actually ran by the New York Public Library, but no one knows that. They just think they're the Schomburg.
Sure.
So, which is amazing. I went down there last month. So no, it's not a lot of African American archives. It's a lot of museums, and sometimes people don't know the difference.
Explain it, 'cause I did not.
Okay. So the easy ways to explain it is museums collect 3D objects, artifacts, statues, pictures, things like that, where archives collect 2D objects, documents, paper-based evidence,
Photos.
flyers, photos, things of that to kind of document and back up, claims to history, things like that.
And talk about what is the relation, or I guess partnership with the nonprofits, say, Sharon and Freedmen's here. How are y'all working together?
So us working with the city, we can only do so much, and our job is to preserve African American history in Houston and throughout Texas on that document level, where the Sharon's organization can go out and advocate for them not turn down structures or not moving bricks, and we can help with the research and the things that she needs to generate, her narratives and everything, her research. We can help and supply that, and I believe that's why the city actually came together, because as you can see, the gentrification is real, and what we have left is really just from Victor Street to West Dallas, what's considered historical Freedmen's Town. So working with nonprofit preservation organizations help us get around some of the city constraints, because we're still the slow city. We might have money, but we can't move that fast. So it's always great to have that arm.
Sharon told us a little bit about just the history of Freedmen's, and I was looking at some of the things. But from your perspective and the work that you've been doing, what's something that's like been really shocking to you or amazing? What have you, through those archives or through those, getting with those elders, what's something that really sticks out in your mind about this community?
I would say I don't think anybody understands how big Fourth Ward in Freemanstown actually was. We do have a small church downtown called Antioch. The first iteration of the Gregory School was across from Antioch, which is down the street from the mayor's city hall. So we was a very massive section of the city that's just kind of been taken away and reclaimed. You know, we had they left us in the inner cities, and you know, segregation, desegregation. I don't know if that helped or hurt. I had those debates, but I would say it when it happened, for better or worse, it caused you know, white flight and everything like that, which created urban sprawling, which created the suburbs, and left us to the inner city to just kind of fall apart. You see all the construction on the road now in this neighborhood is because they did not take care of the infrastructure because it was blacks here. But now we got all the high rises and everything. So now they got to go back under the ground and fix it. And that's where Sharon them come in to make sure what is still here is not getting replaced, if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Kind of going back to technology, and you mentioned that you all are doing some digitizing. How are you seeing, and you know, even before today's conversation, how are you seeing technology playing a role in your work?
I want an AI system. I've been so I was fortunate enough for the city to invest in CIP funds or capital investment funds. So they allowed us to build this over all the archives that I'm over, to build a digital assets. So we got scanners, we got computers, about 3D scanners, all the things that we need. But what I need is somebody like you to help us put it together and get it outside of Houston. We have to do a better job of promoting our African American history, but being part of the city, we can't just say the city has to focus all its money on us. Like you said, the main thing we're trying to build now is the Hispanic archives. So that means the focus has to shift somewhere. So I feel like we have the infrastructure and the technology in place. I would like to ingest a lot of our digital assets. I can see we was talking with your the app where you were giving tours and holograms. It would be great, like you said, to build a African American AI system that's enclosed with our data, and that way, like you said, we don't know what's real or what's fake anymore. But coming from the organization that's creating that let's say, I guess that model would give it, I guess, a little more validity.
And that's the point you made earlier. I think that's the power of ethical use of AI. You build this large language model grounded in truth, right? Because he has data nobody else has access to. It also gives him, like I said, that you can trust that it came from him, but it also gives him a competitive advantage because nobody else can tell that story because they don't have that data. Right. And I think that is the power of finding ways to have you tell that story.
So that should be your case study. I want to be winners too.
Hey, you know that. It's done.
Okay. Y'all heard it. That's
we'll
on. That's
be,
on.
We'll be here next year doing part 2.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned, because it sounds like maybe this has been some conversation has been had, that you really want to focus on getting this history outside of Houston.
Yes.
For more people to know about that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So it's more about, like you said, we do good work. There are these small institutions that's doing this work, but like you said, sometimes we're restricted in the way that we can advertise with such as the organization that you're under. I'm not allowed to use certain social media platforms to get things out. I can't use let's say the Gregory School can't have its own Facebook page or any page because we are part of the city. We have to follow our government rules, which we like. You know, like I said, that keeps the lights on, that keeps the staff there. So it is some give and take. So my job now is trying to find other avenues to promote the things that we've already done. So these partnerships would be
So and that's interesting. So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So the Gregory School, as for an example, can't have these, you know, social media outlet so that people can learn and know about it. So therefore, that history is going unknown. So are you looking to see how you can have something that's at the city level that gives all of that, at least access to all of that information? Is that what the ultimate
Well,
goal is?
let me correct that. So we do have a process to get it out there. So we do post with the Houston Public Library, page there. But sometimes our people don't research. We don't search things that way. We're just gonna Google the African American Library Greater School on Facebook and look for it to pop up and expect it to pop up, but it's not gonna pop up. We're making sure now we tag things to make those posts pop up, but and that's just one way that trying to meet the youth. Like I said, it's about the youth. That's my problem target area. My 30s and 40s and up, they're interested, but we have to get the youth involved to make sure that they're going to be the next generation to preserve this, because there's not a lot of black archivists, not a lot of black librarians, digitechs. So at the end of the day, it goes almost back to before we was, but who's controlling the narrative either way. So if we're not processing our own stuff, we don't get to pick what's important. Someone else is going to tell that narrative. So it's, for me, it's a whole bunch of different little modules that I don't know where to start.
And question for both of y'all, and I hate to sound bleak, like, but but do you think that we can actually do that? Can we get enough interest and get the youth interested before it's too late? I forgot the sobering stat around just the wealth gap between black and white, and when they're predicting the black to be at zero or something to that effect. Is there a chance here that we run out of time to get the right people and processes in place to preserve this history?
Yeah,
I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah, I think the gap is widening faster than we would want it to widen, right? But I think the issue is in that how you address that issue, because the point you just made, like, kids are not choosing those careers because they don't understand how they're relevant, right? But if I were to go and take a kid who you wanted to come in and understand how to be an archivist, as an example, I got to go and show that kid how scanning this picture from a negative lets them build an AI model to go do something on social media. So you got to give them examples they can understand in today's kind of conversation to get them excited about it, and that exposes them to the history. And it became apparent to me. So for instance, me and you both went to Memphis. We went to the Withers Museum. We had this amazing experience. When my team were working on these products recently, they made a point and said, you know what's interesting? The young kids don't have that same reaction when they see that picture of MLK. And I was like, never thought about that. So I asked my 16-year-old son, I said, hey man, we went to Withers and we saw that cool African American history stuff. What do you think about that? He's like, honestly, Dad, it was kind of a boring trip. And I was like, ooh. And it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't disrespectful. It's just that I was born in 78, not too far from 68. So it meant something to me.
Right.
My son was born in 2009, 2000. And it's like, to him, it's different.
Right.
But how do I get him excited about that? If I were to go show my son how to take that picture of MLK and use the ML model to make it a video that could do X, Y, and Z,
Right.
you're getting exposed to the work while doing something cool and kind of connecting it. So I think, to me, that's how I think about that.
So for both of y'all, because a lot of people in this room has, either children or nieces and nephews in similar situations, what's the call to action to everybody in the room? How does everybody lean in and be able to support and help?
You first.
We definitely go out to universities. We used to bring in TSU, Prairie View, bring them to the archives and teach them how to use primary resources, how to do research at an archives. We have volunteers, so we definitely welcome all volunteers. I think you just got to be 16 and up. We do a lot of outreach. We're going to schools, universities, even elementaries at some level, to try to catch the next generation of, like you said, up and coming young minds, and let them understand and see what, how important history is, and needing the diversity in this field is critical. Yeah, but we still got to find out a way to do more, because like you said, that's just not what the youth is interested in. So I guess what we haven't solved is how and what we need to say and do with the youth to get them to think these old documents and photographs is cool to play with.
Anybody got any ideas?
Yeah, we are definitely taking.
Yeah, how do we, okay, I'll put some hands.
I would take
Is this an extra?
So I was text writing notes for myself actually as we were talking about this, engaging with youth. So one of my recommendations is for your library to host a summer series.
Race car series.
Hosting a series during the summer when the kids are out of school, and maybe like have a week of careers, and then maybe one day you could have a session where kids can come and learn about what does it mean to be an archivist. Another thing I have is for high schoolers to possibly have interns as well. We're talking about that. Have interns work at the library to learn how to be an archivist. And then even on the college level, participating in career fairs. I don't know if the library, even does that.
Oh yeah, we do outreach.
Okay.
Definitely go out and do outreach. Yes, ma'am.
But those are some of the ideas that went through my head as I was listening to you all.
I will make sure you get my email address. And we'll send those over.
You are volunteered.
I know, right? You in Houston? You in?
St. Louis.
Come on. I'll still take that email.
She good people. She answered the phone.
Oh, she'll pick it up.
Thank you, brothers, for that, man. My name is Jerry Hawkins. I live in Dallas. I have an archive. It's called Hawkins Archives and Work, but I actually have donated books to the Gregory School.
We appreciate your donation.
Yeah. So I'm on the board of Deep Vellum Books. It's a publishing company from Dallas, and I donated one book by Ernest McMillan. He created the first SNCC chapter in Dallas. But my proposition, I think, is a different one. I think it's connected to yours, too, around a value proposition at archives. For 7 years, I've ran the largest racial equity organization in Dallas called Dallas Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation. And what we've been thinking about is how to dismantle the hierarchy of human value. But I think archives are connected to that, because archives is a value proposition around a narrative around what this document is worth to someone and to something. So I think young people can engage in that. One of the things we did was actually have young people buy archives that they were interested in, whether it be like a Megan Thee Stallion magazine or something, and actually start to think about the narrative around this document and how it can be valuable to their community. So I think there's a lot of different ways to think about it, particularly when our museums have these static 3D things. How can we actually activate a market, and so Black people can create their own value proposition around things that are now archived in a different way. And I'm saying this because I work with the people who work. I think you might have mentioned Lee Harvey Oswald. I work with a woman who actually curated the 6th floor museum, which is Dallas, the JFK Assassination Museum. She sent me to the National Society of Archivists, which had auctions. And all of these, they featured thousands of Black ephemera. They had a valuation to it, but the valuation was based on what they thought it was. Right, and I'm telling you, some of these things are priceless in our community, right? Yeah. So how do we take that power back? And I think young people would love to engage in that, because they can, put some money in their pockets, but it also can teach them about the value of our things.
I have something over here. This has been a really powerful conversation, and my suggestion is a little bit more aesthetic. My sister and I are celebrating our 25th birthday next week, so we are part of the Gen. Thank you. We're part of like the Gen Z generation, and this might be a little bit more aesthetic leading, but currently there's like a really popular trend amongst our culture with physical media. Like, we are really into the analog right now. My sister and I just bought a digital camera. We're taking photos. We're going to Flats Film Lab to get it developed. It's all over Instagram. Like, people are really intrigued with analog, and I think it might be associated with feelings and emotions connected to those types of images. You would think that clarity and 4K would intrigue that, but no, we're going back and we're trying to dig up those cultures. So I think if you were to lean into that, whether it be learning more about film and learning more about what it means to archive, people want to flip through pages again. And I even recently created a yearbook utilizing these images to represent my year that I lived in Seattle. So I would say if you take that angle, and I would love to work with you if you would
Yeah,
want
you
to
from
talk
Houston?
more. I'm not from Houston, but I'm based here.
Okay.
I'm
Coming
based
to
here
see
in
you, man.
Baltimore.
You got two airports.
Or based here in Houston. Pardon me.
Engineer? Okay.
But yeah, that's my suggestion.
Oh, I heard she's a software engineer that she's leaving out. Yeah, no. We'll definitely get your address.
Hi, my name is Krista, and I'm not an archivist or in technology at all, but I'm really excited and grateful to be here. I have a comment to answer your question, but I have a question as well that I'd like to incorporate at the end. So I think in order to connect to the youth, it would be really helpful to get them to understand they already are documenting their stories, right? In my mind, when I put together my Instagram story, that's a whole little mini movie of my life, of moving from the luncheon to this fabulous event to just twirling somewhere, you know? like that is the story, and why does that matter? So I really think it's important to connect to the creative community because they all want to be creators. They all want to be videographers, and they're constantly on their phones taking pictures. So I think just getting them to understand that it's not the boxes that we grew up with, or the analog camera of the disposable film, right? It's translating what they know to be storytelling and why it's important, and then just helping them understand the importance of their voice and their stories, and that it matters in order to feed into the future. But my question is, in terms of storytelling, because you spoke on it on the panel, which was excellent, by the way, just the importance of us telling our stories and how it's intentionally being erased, but also just the politics of it in terms of not just federally, we know about that, but it also happens at the local level. And as someone who used to work at the city, it is very challenging in order to do the stuff that you know what's needed for our communities when you have to go through all this protocol and red tape, and you're trying to be strategic about it so you don't lose your job, because they'll just straight up fire you or suffocate you or put you in another department or another division to make sure that it doesn't happen. So my question / comment is, how do we support each other in what's needed to support, like the Gregory School, right? When he can't even make a Facebook page in order to really amplify that this is a story on its own. It's not the Houston Public Library. This is very much a monument that doesn't have an identity. But how can we support him and what he's trying to do, but he can't necessarily be the one to lead that charge, knowing just some of the political red tape that you have to go through.
That, y'all don't I want to answer that? I'm gonna give my high level answer, and I'm gonna let them talk because I can't say a lot of things. But with that being said, we need Friends Group, nonprofit organizations. We have the Friends Group of the Friends of the African American Library. But our problem is youth in there. We got a lot of great older retired generational people who can't make the Facebook pages, who can't do that. So we need fan pages of someone dedicated to doing that work. And the research is free. The archives is free. The digital image is free. We can partner with anybody we want to partner with. But I guess that will have to be the next thing, finding organizations and groups and interest groups that, let's say they want to practice their social media skills, have them come to us, hey, do that with our collection and get a page going, and you can do that. So that is a great idea, and that's about all I can say about that.
I got another one.
No.
So this one is about preserving family history. Maybe, I don't know if you all do genealogy classes, but having a session probably during the summer to teach families how to archive their photos. So I'm old school, so I have like little photo. I don't know what the little photo boxes.
Yes.
So having the photo boxes in your home. So teaching them how do we digitize and archive all the photos, and then that way, having a genealogy, they can learn who is this woman in the picture. Oh, that's Big Mom. You know what I'm saying? So having those types of sessions can help families so they can learn how to preserve their own history, and then also maybe reaching out to a Michael's. I'm sure Michael's the craft store is here, and maybe seeing if there is a scrapbooking group locally that can come in, have a class to teach people how to scrapbook. And she was speaking about, how do we take these pictures and preserve them, put them in a scrapbook, and also scanning them because, we know the pictures won't last forever. Yes. But just those types of things just to help the community so that they can preserve their family history.
And we do have programming centered around archives. We have Preservation Week where we actually do teach people how to archive and create their personal archives, how to do oral histories at home. We give them best practices, just taking your camera and making sure you ask these certain questions, open-ended questions. Don't interrupt them while they're talking. Let them say what they want to say. We also, so we do have research classes and things like that online. We might need to ramp that up a little more, as you said, but those are definitely great.
I was going to say one thing that I wanted to mention, and I forget your name, but you mentioned it.
Talking to the mic.
One thing that we don't think about and the importance of it. Somebody mentioned I take all these pictures every day and I put them on Instagram, Facebook, you name it. So that's called first-party data. Most of these platforms right now, you can take every picture you want and put it on Facebook, Instagram, but I would argue, try to go online today and say, give me all the pictures I took when I was in Houston last week, right? So but imagine if you put that in your own system. So we have to start having these programs you're dealing with, right? And showing people how to create these systems themselves so they can monetize and preserve and benefit from it. And I think those are the type of things, and now you take that influencer who wants to tell their story and you show them how they can use their gift to monetize and do things with it. And that person now can run the app that is the Facebook page for the museum. So I think we just got to change the conversation, but we keep giving all our stuff to somebody else who has a different business model. Like Instagram wants your picture to sell an ad, not to tell your history. And so we got to just think about that.
So Miguel can't tell the story of the Gregory School in the way he wants to because of the bureaucracy of the city, but I don't work for the city. So we can do work around telling the story of Gregory School. 2026 is coming, it'll be 100 years old. And so we can commit to actually doing that work. So that's why we're here as partners. He can't do it, but I can. One more question?
Oh, one more question? Is this even on? It's not even on. Was there another question? Oh, okay.
It's like serious, boy.
Okay. Oh, both of y'all?
Number one, I just want to remind you that when we were little, I'm speaking probably for you as well, that when I was going to family reunions and all of those things and taking those pictures, I was complaining and saying it was boring as well.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to us now, we realize how important it is. And my family has multiple genealogy books that I've shared with some of the people here, where we went back to the 1700s, and it has a lot of archives in it. But anyway, so I say that to say that yes, when I was little, I was worried about playing Atari. I didn't want to go to the family reunion, right? Or PlayStation or whatever that happened to be. So right now, your 16-year-old thinks that was a boring trip, but fast forward, hopefully, that will make a change. And so we do just need to keep doing that, even if they say that it's boring. So you are making a dent, even if you don't think so. My question is, so I'm from the Kentucky area, and again, my family has been in the same area since the 1700s, and we own the land. And there are lots of museums and Underground Railroad stops and things like that we did again, like I thought was boring at the time, but now I understand. Is there things that we can do to highlight this area more? Because even in my talking to people, they're not aware of what's going on. So is it just that we're not getting enough exposure to what's happening, or what is your thoughts on that?
I probably can answer your question. So one of the reasons, of course, is exposure. This place is not talked about a whole lot. I mean, it's not in any of the history books in terms of a broader access point, right? However, in terms of the question around, because I heard you mention the Underground Railroad, one of the things that we're undertaking right now is having an emancipation trail. And that emancipation trail work requires that we have academia support that quantifies, qualifies, verifies all of the things. And this emancipation trail is intended to tell the story from June 19th, 1865 in Galveston at Reedy AME, and the travels of the folks who came here from those places, including Matagorda County, Brazoria County, even Louisiana and some of the other surrounding spaces, but where communities were established until you actually get here. A lot of people are beginning to understand the connectivity between Freedmen's Town as the original African American community here, and then how you get the communities of Fifth Ward, how you get Third Ward, how you get Pleasantville, and even places as far as Tamina. Tamina is a African American, a freedom colony, and it's right nestled in the woodlands. Nobody knows about Tamina because it's been surrounded by all of the development and all the things. And so that's that's one of the things that we're working on right now. And it takes a substantial amount of time to have those who are in academia that substantiate that. And then, as you guys can see, I don't know how much y'all follow like the civil rights trails and things of that nature. There have been major developments and accomplishments relative to that. So we're hopeful that the same thing can actually happen here. Last question.
One more over here.
We got time for one more. Oh, we got two? Who's one?
They sitting beside each
Oh.
other though.
Yeah.
Hello,
How you doing?
my name is Obi. I am from Southside of Houston. I actually went to Jack Yates, graduated from Prairie View. My question to you all, is as far as inclusive and equitable stakeholder engagement. So one thing that I do is I'm a community development engagement consultant. So I work with corporations as well as communities. I brought my nephew and my niece here through the summer to attend the Reading with a Rapper and the Freedmen's Town summer camps because I feel it's important to learn about our history. My aunt just turned 101 2 days ago. Today, one thing that I do is I record our oral history. So I get to hear about her stories coming from Moss Bluff to the CUNY homes to Sunnyside, buying some land in Manville, selling to Herm Clark. My question to you all is, how do you usher in the new generation of archivists? And does your approach center kids directly in the hood? Because your next archivist could be sitting in the CUNY homes, can be sitting in Miss Shaw, can be sitting in Jailhouse, can be sitting in Wesley Square. So how do you ensure equitable and inclusive engagement practices to bring in those kids and their parents who may have barriers to access, barriers to participation, and barriers to all of these opportunities?
I can speak to that. So I'm not from here, but like I said, if you heard about part of my story, that is my story. So my nonprofit is called Time to Give. It's been around for about 20-something years, and we do probably every year at least $250,000 to $300,000 of programs that we define grants for, personally fund for that purpose. So I go into communities that I grew up in. We run experiences like this, and we put kids in deep tech experiences. As a matter of fact, arguably one of the best campuses for the inclusive nature is Microsoft's Atlantis campus. So my team ran like 4 weeks of summer camps on Microsoft's campus where kids are coming to that campus to do things just like this. And so that's a big part of what I do.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on what he said is bringing that deep skilling and training to young people, but also, in a very scaled way. You have to mention Reading with a Rapper, another
Yes.
nonprofit that supported, and one of the reasons is their model of how they can work across school districts, youth around the country, and focus on that digital literacy and how technology can help, and how you have that in the intersection of hip hop. So when you think about programs like that that go beyond just uh, uh, providing that training and that knowledge to one set of kids, those organizations that's looking on a much broader and scale type of manner, because that's how we're going to try to make a difference quick enough and close these gaps, if we look at things on a much larger basis sometimes.
So thank you for bringing up what she was mentioning is our summer camp. We piloted our first summer camp, which is called Cultureverse Camp. And Cultureverse Camp was a partnership that we created with Reading with the Rapper, Legends Do Live.
Okay.
Nice.
And because their platform is an intersection between literacy, technology, and hip hop, we thought it would be great to add culture and history to that. So we had about 35 kids for an entire week that had an immersive experience in technology, literacy, culture, and history right here. So what I took away from the kids in terms of their experience was, not only did we talk to them about history that was here in Freedmanstown, going into these houses, seeing the exhibition, going into the Gregory School, seeing all of the photos that were captured here in the galleries, which are amazing, by the way, but we took them out to the community. So they saw brick streets historically on the photos, but then they were able to walk on them and pick them up. We showed them J. Vance Lewis House in the gallery space. They were actually able to go into the J. Vance Lewis House, listen to some videos, see some archives, see that J. Vance Lewis was not only an attorney, but he was also a physician as well. So they got to experience what this community has produced real time. And the most valuable thing that they shared with us is like, oh, y'all just didn't tell us about old stuff, old people stuff. These are their words, not mine. But we were able to go out and see it, and that was like really, really cool. And now I know that I can do anything. I can build a whole community. So as part of their deliverable during the week, while they were learning all of these poems and poems and all these things, they had to build their own communities. And they found the value in building their own communities and then also creating their own desires and goals. So that's what we did. And we felt like we've created little youth Freedmanstown ambassadors. And I think grassroots programs like that help them find interest in some of these sectors and these niches in which we're talking about.
Love that, Sharon.
Congrats.
Yeah.
They would tell, I was like, what did you learn today? They was like, I learned that you don't call people slaves, you say they were enslaved. And he was eager to tell me about
There you go.
red bricks and everything in building their community in town. So I would ask them a little piece of history, and they would tell me they met a celebrity. I was like, who did you meet? And I was like, she's been fighting the fight for 40 years. It was civil rights leaders. It was the individuals who's been fighting for their communities. So it was a very immersive experience, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. I still have the video. So thank y'all for that. I went to Jack Yates, so they know a lot about history, but the way that y'all broke it down in a way that they could understand and effectively communicate it to someone else was amazing.
And are you ready to donate?
See, that's our testimony, our antidote. Okay, we have our final question.
I want you to donate your archives, though. Actually, all the things that you were documenting, and that should be in the research center, so we can actually give people access to all that. All right. We are a collecting institution still, just to say.
Okay, hi, I'm Shanicia, and I have an idea as far as like making it more appealing to the youth. As far as like gamifying it, you see that a lot of the younger generation tend to spend more time gaming. Like the other lady mentioned, she was more focused on like when she goes to her family reunion, the video game. So I think if there was a way or a platform developed to where the kids can go inside and build their little avatar and just have them archive like digitalize things and also make it competitive, that would keep them engaged, and they will also be learning a skill.
I mean, absolutely. You intersect gaming with anything, and you can teach the youth. But then also thinking about outside of the home, doing some work down in Fort Lauderdale, and there's a historically Black community there, and the leaders there want to leverage the actual neighborhood with small QR codes that are on certain buildings in certain areas, and then when you scan it with your phone, you essentially leverage augmented reality, and then something comes out and is talking to you and telling the history. So even something like that, very Pokemon style, very Pokemon style, to where you can get them out walking around Freedmen and actually interacting in that manner. But you're absolutely right, gamification.
And I was going to say one last thing as well. We have built it.
Oh, God.
But the last thing I was going to say is that he spoke about, like, and I'll just make one last point. So he mentioned that he has all this amazing equipment that he can scan and digitize anything. And there are a lot of kids who care about art and preserving, and they love things like Photoshop or Canva to make things look better. So now you take an example where he scanned this negative, that picture has to be touched up, right? Now you go find this kid who wants to be this new digital person, and you get him access to this archive of these millions of images that he can't pay somebody to come in and touch up and make better. And now this kid gets access to this, they make it look better. They change the filter, they make it nice, they make it printable, right? So you can actually work on real problems and get real skills and things you care about. And now that picture can be used in a video to make content. So I think it's those type of things that could be happening. And that's you can go crowdsource 1 million kids who love digital editing. And now you just saw the big choke point you had because you can't find somebody who has that skill set. So I think it's things like that bring it forward.
Yeah, that's a definitely good point. We'll start that Monday. I can't remember everything. I got to watch the tape.
We became best friends on the meeting greet
I
a few
know,
weeks
right?
ago.
It was very simple. I just needed that.
Well, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Can y'all give them a round of applause, please? We appreciate the thorough conversation. I hope that everybody found something that they could take away, not only just for knowledge base, but also usefulness and how to get involved in the work that we're doing in any way that you see fit. So before we close out, I just really want to say, thank you to everyone. Thank you to AfroTech for allowing this to be an official event. This is our first time partnering with AfroTech, and really excited that we had this opportunity. Want to thank BAM. We cannot do this without BAM. So if you are from BAM, can you please stand up, please, and thank you? Yes, thank you. Black at Microsoft. And just a personal thank you to Andrea, like she said, putting on her thinking cap and saying, you know what, we can find something that is actually impactful to do. So thank you, Andrea. We appreciate that. We also want to thank BAM. Oh, y'all can sit. I'm sorry. I didn't want to make y'all sit. Y'all at church, Lord, just stay standing up. But also want to thank BAM as well so my first meet with BAM was early last year. And since we've met with them, they have been involved in the work that we've been doing. They supported us during our Juneteenth, celebrating 160 years. They came and provided Code to Culture, which is AI and Copilot for kids and adults during this crazy runaround during Juneteenth, and they actually made it work. They've also provided funds through Benevity for the work that we're doing. So they're not only showing up, but they're using their resources. So thank y'all, and thank y'all again. Also want to do a special shout out to DJ Jazz back there. Thank you, girl. She's going to play some music for us before we actually go, so y'all have a little time to grab some things. And then just a few little housekeeping things. A lot of our work is driven by numbers. So if y'all could take some time to complete a survey, to share while you were here what your experience was, we would appreciate that. We also launched this year our first set of merch, and we're still figuring out all the things. But if you see something that you like, well, the ladies, where them fans at? Y'all, we got fans. So if y'all want to get some fans, definitely be able to do that. And also follow us on all of our platforms. Instagram, we don't do X. Do we do? I think we cut them out because, we can't be supporting stuff that is rooted in the oppression of us. I am a deep believer of the things. And so my kids are like, man, how long are you going to hold this grudge against Target? We ain't going to Target no more. Ain't gonna have them capping. So I'm kind of like that in all the things. But if you have interest in volunteering with us and you're here, or even if you're not here, LaRon, you can volunteer with us. Awesome. And then I also want to share before we go where we find ourselves is the exhibition that is here on site. That exhibition is curated by Satchel Lee. She's the daughter of Spike Lee. Spike Lee was actually just here a few weeks ago. Her work is centered around Freedmanstown. So please do take a look at that work before you actually leave out the doors. And then my final thing, go vote. I know y'all tired of these people. I'm tired. It gets heavy, hopeless, and all the things, but we still have to participate in this system that our ancestors and the people who built this place actually fought for. So please go vote. Go to harrisvotes.org for the people in Harris County. Go pull up your sample ballot. See what's on there. There's 17 props. They impact the Constitution, so I'm going to need y'all to do y'all research. Don't go in there voting yeah because you're about to vote yeah against your own interest, but take some time to research and then make sure that you go out and vote. Early voting ends tomorrow. Election day is November 4th, and that's all I have. Thank y'all.
Hold on, Sharon. I need 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
I like to, if you don't mind,
Micah.
call up a good friend of mine. She was supposed to be on the panel, but to no fault of hers, the government shut down in TSA and backed up planes.
Oh, wow.
But this is Jacqueline Beauchamp. I would love if she can introduce herself for those that don't know. She's a legend in my eyes, and Houston is important to her. So she, moved her entire business and everything here because it was important for you to be in Houston. Can you please introduce yourself to everybody? There you go.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you. Look, he and I go back a long way, and this guy right here as well. The last time we were together was about museums and things of that nature, right? And look, how many years?
10 years, at least 10 years, probably.
10 years, right? And but I'm Jacqueline Shorter Beauchamp, and I am the founder and CEO of Engage Media Studio. We are a digital media technology company here in Houston, Texas, specializing in AI SaaS solutions, focused on virtual, augmented, mixed reality elements where we actually, okay, that's the better one. Okay, great. We service the sports, the entertainment, the industrial and education spaces. So my background is I have been in the tech industry for over 25 plus years, and I not only have I founded one company, I founded a company before, Engage Media, that actually was a video game studio. We were the first African-American led company that Microsoft actually provided a video games license to develop on console. The game that we built was the Black College Football video game experience, the Doug Williams edition. On Xbox 360, still historical. And you wouldn't believe how many times we are now actually getting inquiries about doing that again. So there are a lot of discussions around what do we do about the HBCU story? How do we continue providing a platform into different mediums? And that's what we are here, at least from the company standpoint, to do. We add value in a number of areas with our partners, but the one thing that we don't forget about is about how do we make sure that we utilize technology to tell our stories for the next generation of people to basically embrace, see what they have, who they are, understand who they are, and understand that they too can achieve all of the things that our ancestors have done, from our past and leading us into our future. One of the areas that I just came from, and I'll state this and then I'll stop, but it lets you know how competitive we are, and especially ladies who are in here as an African American female, right? I'm just coming from New York. That's where my flight got delayed, and And I was actually in a meeting with a large customer, and that customer was none other than the NFL. So as a black woman, and walking in and showcasing not just holograms and so, but showcasing platforms that takes their business into a different level, really lets you know how competitive we are. And I will also state that the only people that are going to create the future for us is us, okay? And letting them know what we can, and leveraging and taking our history and our stories and elevating them. They're so powerful when you really, really, really sit down and understand what our ancestors have done and how much we have created and brought into this country. How we created this country, not just the physical, but also the intellectual aspect and the capacity of what we have done from inventions and so forth. And those stories are getting lost. And if we do not sit back and determine what we do and how we participate in AI and bringing all of our stories into the forefront, we're going to start losing information. So it's important, it's critical. For the reason why I got off, look, my luggage is still down, it's on the ground. And why it was important for me to come is so that we understand how critical these institutions and these environments and what you guys are doing here is so important to continue our story and our history. So whatever I can do to be a part of that, I'm here, I want to be. And if he's involved, he's involved. Yeah, you got me.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thing, guys. Oh, shameless plug. And this, for the first time ever, if you haven't done your holiday shopping, we're actually putting together a Withers themed holiday box for Christmas. So it'll be a holiday gift box stuffed with a bunch of Withers themed imagery that people can give to family, friends, or key customers. That's going to go online in the next week or so. So I would just ask you, like, if you have the brochure, look at the Legacy Line website. If you like this type of stuff, help support us in doing that. But our goal is to move about 5,000 boxes over the course of the holiday season to help this family preserve and push things forward. So please look for that if you're interested in something like that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.